Good evening. So I don't normally do this, I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to start out my homily with telling you what the theme of my homily is. And it's a test of faith. And I'll tell you why that is the theme. Because usually when the schedule comes out for preaching, the first thing I do is I go right to the readings for that week and I open them up. And when I sat there and I read that the Old Testament reading was a story of a parent-child sacrifice, and in the gospel story we have this supernatural event that really takes a lot to understand, I thought for sure, Father Stephen is testing me. So a test of faith. I like to think of faith in another way. I like to think of faith as trust. Faith and trust, they really are interchangeable. And for those of us that have faith, for people of faith, we know if we've had it long enough, and as we go through life, it gets challenged every now and then, doesn't it? It gets challenged. We go through these trials, we go through these difficulties in life, and we start to question, we start to doubt. Sure, when life is going well and we're riding high, everybody's healthy, life is good, our faith is strong. But what do we do when our faith is challenged? So yes, that first reading today, Abraham, that is probably one of the most challenging stories, I think, in the entire Bible. Especially as a parent, that's very hard to comprehend. But I think what we should do is we should look at Abraham and try to focus more, at least this week, on the perfect example he really provides for us. That trust that he had in God and following God's commandments, as difficult as the task was before him, really should be an example for us. And then turning to the gospel story today with Peter, James, and John up on the mountain, there are plenty of biblical scholars who think that this experience, this transfiguration, where they had a glimpse into the afterlife, where they're seeing these two prophets in a glorified state, and they're seeing Jesus turn into this glorified state that he was in, that Jesus was allowing them to witness this to strengthen their faith, knowing that they were going to be challenged during the Passion. Now, we all know that didn't really turn out so great for most of the disciples. Aside from John being at the foot of the cross, we know surely about Peter denying the Lord. But what happened after the resurrection? Christ came back in the glorified manner again. He started to strengthen their faith again. He ate with them. He finished teaching with them. And then the Holy Spirit came at Pentecost and lit them on fire. And today they're saints, except for Judas. But today they're saints. Examples, again, for us. So I'd like to just share a short story of an experience that I had during my formation process when I was studying for the diaconate during this 5-year period. Having a career and a full-time job and a family and a lot of stuff going on in my life. When I had taken it on, I remember my mom saying, "You just have too much going on, you shouldn't do this." And it was the one time I probably didn't listen to my mom, but I knew that this was a calling that I had to follow through on. And so after early mornings and getting out of work and sitting on the parkway in traffic and getting home late at night and spending Saturdays at formation meetings and going through this grinding schedule, life started to build up. For me, at that point in my life, I started to have some difficulties at work. Started to have some stress, which was really starting to take a toll on me mentally and physically. Worry. Am I going to be able to support my family if I lose my job? What are we going to do? Just that cloud following me around all the time. And so I started looking and saying, all right, well, I have to look at some other options here. I have to provide for my family. I have to go out and I have to maintain what we have, even if it means lowering our standard of living. And so I got to the point where I actually, one day, I said, I might have to drop out of formation and go back to school or go back to training and start a whole new career. But I brought it to prayer, and I really said to God, I said, God, I think I'm responding to your calling. How am I supposed to follow through on this calling if I'm dealing with all this stuff at work? I might have to leave just so I can get another job. And so I got to the point where I was friendly with one of my classmates in the back. We sat in the back corner, and I got him during a break, and I shared these thoughts that were going through in my mind. And he surprised me. And he said, John, he goes, I actually got laid off 6 months ago. And I've been looking for work for 6 months. And we're just struggling right now, just trying to get through this. He goes, so I know exactly what you're going through, but I want to tell you, stick to the path. Just stick to the path and trust. And believe it or not, within 6 months or so, that dark cloud had kind of drifted away. The way things kind of worked out at my job, things kind of turned around. And I was able to kind of get back to being more healthy and finishing up formation. So in closing, let's keep in mind too that as each of us travel on this journey of faith together, that the other person that we're interacting with has that dark cloud. One day or another, they're dealing with the dark cloud. And let's also acknowledge that we need to allow Christ to work through us so we can strengthen each other's faith. We really need to be responsible and take care of each other's faith as we take this journey. So I'll just close with a question. How's your faith?